Shuffling my papers, putting everything in its right place. I'm going to guarantee you one thing, everybody. If you're listening to this program on CJAD 800, I'm going to guarantee you one thing. This show is going to go better than a Tesla demo when Elon Musk asks his chief of product design to do crazy things. It will go better. By the way, a little later on, we'll play you some audio from that because it was so funny. You heard it in the business report. You know, when you do a demo on stage, you want to make sure things are going to go absolutely 100% correct. Didn't happen yesterday. This show will be 100% fantastic. Why? Because we got some great panelists to kick things off. Trudie Mason, good morning.
Good Friday morning before vacation, Elias.
Oh, you're going on vacay?
Yeah, I have some days off next week.
Son of a gun. I did not get my email notification. Work on that, please,
I'll
Trudie.
correct that.
And he is the leader of the Green Party of Quebec, Alex Tyrrell. Hi, Alex. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, how are you?
And for everyone at home, this guy, he talks the talk. You're about to hear the talk, but he walks the walk. His beverage is in a mason jar. That's what the leader of the Green Party does. Beverage, mason jar. Guys, let's talk about Quebec. Let's talk about what's happening. We've got a shortage of propane. Trudie, it's been in your newscast. What are we down to? 4 days left?
4 days worth.
We have 4 days of propane. And of course, this is what we need to make sure seniors don't freeze to death and that our crops don't all die. These are important things. So we got 4 days left. Jason Kenney, Premier of Alberta, kind of enjoying this situation. Let's listen to him.
Here's my message to Premier Legault. We have technology that could guarantee you constant, stable access to propane and other fuels. They're called pipelines.
He's got a point, right?
I don't think he has a point because
Tell me why.
Because if we want to get rid of fossil fuels and transition towards a green economy, we're not going to be using propane in the future. So building pipelines that are going to last another 50 or 100 years for the life of the infrastructure, I think would really be a waste of money.
You think our old age homes are going to be all retrofitted, lickety-split? I think we're going to be using propane in this province for a long time for those situations.
Well, if we want to respect the science and we want to achieve the targets that we've set for ourselves, we do have to transition away from all fossil fuels by 2050 or before.
Well, the pipeline lifespan that we were talking about when we were talking about the last oil pipeline coming into Quebec, I think was 50 years. And personally, I think that that's a good span of time for transition. When you're talking about individual farms across Quebec, many of them in outlying regions, relying on propane to dry their crops or to heat the barns to keep the livestock alive and to keep them healthy. You're talking about a lot of retrofitting. You're talking about a lot of expense and a lot of time. And I think that we have to acknowledge that as much as I am in favor of the green transition, it is going to take time. And I think what Kenny's doing, he's poking Premier Legault. He's making a point about how he thinks that Quebec hasn't been very cooperative. I think Canada should have energy sovereignty. I don't think there's any reason why we need to be importing fossil fuels from other jurisdictions. I think it's crazy and dangerous. And it seems that Quebecers are completely fine with an oil tanker capsizing and sinking in the middle of the Atlantic en route to here, but heaven forbid a pipeline coming from out west should rupture and we'd have to deal with a spill here. I think that there's a bit of NIMBYism going on here.
And the alternative is the trains, right? This is why we're having this issue right now. It's because this propane comes into Quebec via train.
I think one thing that's interesting is how dependent we are on fossil fuels because this strike has only been going on for 4 days, yet the Premier is saying we're in an emergency situation. If we don't get these workers back to work without a fair negotiation in the next few days, it's going to be a catastrophe and we're not going to be able to take care of our people. I think that it shows how over-dependent Quebec is on fossil fuels, and it shows how unprepared we are for any kind of natural disaster, because if there was a disaster that took out the train line for a week, let's say, we'd be in the same situation as the strike. The Premier always talks about, well, there's no social acceptability. Well, let me tell you, if seniors start to freeze, you think that social acceptability of pipelines changes?
Well, I think, yeah, except the health ministry is saying that most of these institutions have backup plans for that, for, a delayed propane delivery or whatever. So I don't think we'll see seniors freezing. But I do think it raises some uncomfortable questions about the attitude that Quebec has taken towards resources that are available from the other provinces and our unwillingness to cooperate.
All right, Montreal is spending like a drunken sailor on infrastructure. This, according to a report in Journal de Montréal, insiders in the Plante administration saying that, well, the team, the Plante Doré team, has a problem with wanting to do too many things at once, not being able to pick and choose priorities. So let's help them out. What projects should this city be saying no to?
I think the city should be against new road projects because there's so much money that's spent on the car infrastructure, and yet even though they're spending all this money, we still don't have the pink line. They only increased the number of buses by 16%. It's not enough. Only 16% over 4 years. For a party who came in saying that they're going to be the party of mobility, that they're going to be the environmental party, but to only increase by 4% per year the number of buses when there's also the population increasing, I think shows that they're not actually that ambitious. And really, I think that despite the financial problems that the city is having, that they should go further and they should be more ambitious in building the city.
Well, I think this is a complicated question because those buses that the Greens want to load everybody onto travel on roads. And when your infrastructure is so bad that buses are breaking down from the repeated pounding they take from the lousy roads, you have a real problem there. If even your public transit is affected, we have a problem with buses in the barn sitting there awaiting repairs, not just from road damage, obviously, but many other reasons. But I think that the Plante administration came in with a mandate from Montrealers to get infrastructure work going, and that's why they've been so ambitious, is because the people who voted for them wanted that. People are tired of having blowouts. People are tired of streets flooding. People are tired of the pipes under the street breaking and flooding their basements.
But speaking of that, just this morning in the paper, they're saying that they're not going to redo the pipes when they open up the streets, that now since they're making budget cuts, they're only going to resurface the road and they're not going to change the infrastructure underneath because they're trying to save money. So I think So
this is a great point, Alex, right? So you bring that up. They're cutting corners on that, right? This is not your regular budget we're talking about. We're talking about the major infrastructure spending products. And on a week where they announce they're going to spend $60 million to retrofit every intersection with 1990s technology for allowing pedestrians to have more time to cross. They're spending $60 million on that. And I said, you know what? In the city of AI, where everything's booming, we're going to go to that technology and spend $60 million on this project. It was a few weeks ago where they say, hey, we're building you all a new skating rink at the Quartier des Spectacles. It's going to be called the Espace or the Esplanade Tranquille. We're going to do that for you. And I said to myself, it's very nice, great, sure. But do we actually have the money to build a new skating rink on a place that's already fine for tourists to visit? And we already have, how many skating rinks do we have? We got the one on on like the corner of Delamontagne and de la Gauchetière. We've got skating rinks around the city, and we're building a new one. So I keep seeing extraneous extra projects, and I say, where is the fiscal responsibility?
But we all want recreation, right? We all need places to go to enjoy the city.
I get it. But when you have to make decisions and you're facing budget shortfalls and you're being told you're spending too much, you got to cut back somewhere. And I would cut back on a fancy new skating rink. That's what I would do.
Well, I think there's also this desire by the Plante administration to be seen as green and progressive is really screwing them up. You had an administration announcing that linear park out on the West Island where I live before they had purchased the land. Yeah. Land that has been slated for residential development for decades and without even negotiating. It was so dumb. It's so dumb. I wish I was the person that owned that land because my price just doubled. Yeah. Honestly, in your desire to be looking green and all for the environment and preserving come on. There is such a thing as fiscal responsibility. Don't be stupid. Don't go out in the public and paint yourself with, water-soluble green paint and immediately, drive up the cost of what I'm sure will be a lovely project that I will welcome in my community eventually.
We're back here on the panel, the one and only Trudie Mason, and we're also joined by the leader of the Green Party of Quebec, Alex Tyrrell, on the panel this morning. Here's our topic to start off the second half of this. Starting on Monday, Quebec motorists convicted of drunk driving twice in 10 years will have to blow into a breathalyzer every time they start a car for the rest of their lives. And these new drunk driving rules are some of the toughest in the world. Does a lifetime requirement like this go too far? Should a couple of mistakes you make in your late teens, early 20s affect you for the rest of your days?
Yes. I got no sympathy. You know, one strike, okay, you're stupid. Maybe if I don't even care how old you are when your first offense occurs. Yeah. Everybody deserves a second chance. You take the demerits, or you take whatever you get, the license suspension or the fine, and you learn from your mistake. If you have a second conviction within 10 years, it means that you are too dumb to learn. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be protected from you. Society has to be protected from you. Oh, so sorry. You're going to have to, buy an interlock and maintain it for the rest of your life. You've proven you can't be trusted.
Yeah, I think that it's nice to see Quebec leading the way on this issue. We're the most progressive jurisdiction in Canada on this thing. It's really the toughest laws, as you mentioned, across the entire country. And, I mean, the people are not going to jail after being caught with drinking and driving. Mm-hmm. They're getting a restriction imposed that they have to use this device, and they're not even being kept from driving a car. So I think that it's quite reasonable.
Can I throw this at you then? Because it is a very strict law. At the same time, here in Quebec, there's been calls, hey, we should lower the legal limit from 0.08 to 0.05. And every time they even bring it up, what's the pushback? No, you can't. We like to go out and have our bottle of wine with our meal. You can't lower it to 0.05. I mean, I just want to say, I agree with this, right? Twice in 10 years, that's a pretty short window, and you're showing that you don't respect the law in this case. But at the same time, we have no problems with a legal limit that a lot of people would say allows people and encourages a culture of going out for their meal, having a bottle of wine, and then driving afterwards. Isn't there a little bit of a disconnect?
From what I understand, in some other jurisdictions, if you're between 0.05 and 0.08, there's another sanction that applies. Mm-hmm. So it's a variable depending on what your blood alcohol limit is.
Yeah, I've heard that too. In some jurisdictions, there's an immediate roadside suspension of your license, so you basically have to walk home, or call somebody to come and get you, or take a taxi or an Uber or something. But there are no further repercussions beyond that, I think, and that I would find reasonable. I would like to see the science on how many accidents are caused by people who are in that gray zone between 0.05 and 0.08. If the science justifies it, if your behavior is so impaired that you are a hazard at 0.05, then maybe we should look at it.
And by the way, I was shocked to find out still today in Quebec, it's every year, it's around 100 people are killed. And then that doesn't talk of the injuries and all that kind of stuff. 100 people a year killed because of drunk driving. So it's still an issue. Okay, let's move this along and talk about this. I was actually quite amazed by this. CBC's Marketplace Hidden Camera Show did an investigation of optometrists and found a whole bunch of them, big brands like LensCrafters, places like that, are telling you go in for an eye check and you really should get this kind of lens that protects you from blue light, the light that's coming from your smartphone and your screens, right? And they're saying things like, these types of light, they cause cancer. It's very sharp. It hits your eyes. Could cause they're lying to customers. In the UK, you pull this kind of stuff, you get fines, like £40,000 fines if you're an optometrist and you pull this kind of shenanigans. Here, Health Canada says you're not allowed to do it, but I don't see any repercussions. Why the heck are we so lenient on these kinds of things in this country?
I think the optometrists, especially in Quebec, really have a favorable situation to them because they're able to get away with all of these things like you're saying, and they also charge a fortune for glasses. We pay more for glasses here than many other places in North America, and so they really have a good deal at this point. They should be more regulated.
I find this a tough one, but then again, homeopathy.
Yeah, we allow that.
It's buyer beware. It's buyer beware when it comes to homeopathy. I don't think, and I think that these blue light filters are in the same category. Mm-hmm. There's no particular downside to them except to your wallet, and that's the same for homeopathy. So, where I don't think they should be making misleading claims. I think that might be dealt with by false advertising rules that we have. It's funny. I bought these glasses at LensCrafters, and I took the blue light filter, but they didn't sell it to me. I saw it on the list and I said, "Can I get that?" But not for cancer.
Yeah,
there was no talk of cancer. It's the
Yeah.
blue light in the evening thing. I was worried about sleep disruptions, and I think there's some pretty good research connecting that. It's just the cancer and cataracts connection
Is a scare tactic, which
Yeah.
well, at least didn't happen to you. Okay, I want to read you some new poll numbers here. Okay, just what a difference a few years makes. In 2016. Only 28% of conservative voters wanted to change the way we vote in elections, right? So go from first past the post, which is what we have now, to a proportional voting system. Today, same question asked of conservative voters. It's gone from 28% 3 years ago to 69% polled just now. What do you think changed, guys? Did anything happen in the last 3 years that would make conservatives say that we should have proportional representation?
I think it might have something to do with the Conservatives winning more votes than the Liberal Party in the 2019 federal election.
Yes. Are you chomping at the bit for an alliance, Greens and Conservatives, for proportional representation now?
It's funny because last year I actually signed an agreement with Premier François Legault ahead of the 2018 election where him, myself, Quebec Solidaire, and the Parti Québécois all agreed that if one of our parties won the election, that we would introduce proportional representation. And now François Legault, despite saying that he was going to do it, is moving back, and he's proposed a system where you have to have 10% of the votes across Quebec to win a seat, and where a lot of regions there'll be actually no proportional representation whatsoever. So he's trying to get out of this agreement that he signed with me and the other leaders.
Yeah, he also introduced that notion of a hybrid system where you would have a direct vote, because I think that's important to a lot of people. They don't want to cast a vote and then have, a name picked from some list that the party's drawn up. They want to be able to directly vote for their local candidates. So this would be kind of like a hybrid system. I didn't have a lot of objections to it when he but I'm not a purist thinking that the be all and end all that will solve all the problems we have with democracy is going to be taken care of by strictly proportional representation.
Well, when you look at the system that he's proposing, it's not proportional. He doesn't even call it proportional anymore. They call it that in their public relations, but the bill itself doesn't say anything about proportional. And they have this idea of regional lists rather than provincial level lists, and so you have some regions where you only have one regional seat. And so you have first past the post for your constituent and first past the post for your regional list, and it turns out to be the same thing.
I just find it's so classic. It just shows you just how humans work, right? As soon as we lose, we're in favor of a new system. And once you win, you're like, the system works just great. Okay, I really want to get to this. I'm happy we have the time for it. The SQDC, Quebec's cannabis sellers, they hope to be able to deliver your pot on the same day. So they've actually put out a call to tenders, and what they want is by 10 o'clock at night, you order on the same day, you get it delivered by 10 o'clock at night everywhere. And in certain metropolitan areas of Montreal, 1 hour delivery. Okay. Which is like totally targeting the illegal black market dealers. Now, this is the same province that just made it illegal to smoke in public places, just raised the legal age to 21. It's kind of like this is another example of the disconnect here, right? A government agency that's like, hey, let's do this, and a government that says, oh yeah, let's pull back on pot access. Your thoughts?
I think the government is taking an ideological position to this matter. They were against legalization to begin with. They tried to hold it down. They tried to push it back. They tried to minimize it. They tried to restrict the number of products that are available. They raised the legal age. And so really they're doing everything they can against it. And it's very odd, as you say, that now we have this Crown Corporation that has a mandate to sell this product. And the Legault government, I think, is generally trying to interfere with it. So it's very surprising that this news would come out that they want to have this new service.
Well, I think that's what we're seeing is the difference between policy and marketing.
Yeah.
This is the Legault government may have a policy of trying to restrict, raising the age to 21 and all that. But this request from the SQDC is strictly coming from a marketing point of view. They want to be able to compete on the same level as the black market, and this is how they can do it. And they don't even know if they're going to be able to get a delivery supplier who's going to be able to meet their parameters.
I don't see how why they wouldn't be able to. I mean, if you look at how food is being delivered now.
Yeah,
and
but
all-
you can't.
and-
It's not quite the same thing because
I-
you're going to have secure vehicles. You're going to have ID checks.
Yeah.
You're going to have, it's going to be a little bit more complicated with a higher startup
I
cost.
understand that, but there's also other companies right now that are doing grocery deliveries, just random item deliveries. There are apps you can download right now in this city where you can get them to go to a certain specific store, pick up items and get it to you. So I'm just saying it's not that far flung. I mean, this is something that they're doing, and in the States where they've got, obviously a few states where it's a little bit more deregulated and you got the private sector involved, where they're able to do this thing. I don't think it's going to be that much of a stretch because it's going after that target market, which is why I find it hilarious that they've upped the age to 21 and they want to do this. Your target market is right there. There's people that are using those dealers that actually you call them up or you text them most likely, and they're at your door within an hour and they've got the product. They're looking to counter against that. I think it's, the SQDC, I'm going to give them this. I think they've been run really well. They're already turning a profit. They only had like one quarter where they was a negative return, and that was because of startup costs, which happens to any business. And then they've been really smart, really effective. The growth strategy was only halted by the CAQ government when they came in and told them to slow down. Now they're still moving ahead with their expansion plans. I just have to give them kudos. I mean, they're running it for all things considered. If a government is going to run something like this, I think they're pulling it off quite well. And I'm happy to see this. If that's what the market wants, let them have it. And the government, if it's legalized in this country, should get out of the way.
Well, the stated goal of legalization was to regulate and put the mob and the biker gangs and everyone else dealing in illegal weed out of business. So I don't think we should put the brakes on that. If that was the goal, and they've only, I mean, their latest figure, they said in the first year of legalization, they managed to displace some paltry amount of the, 30% or something like that of the black market. That's all they've been able to displace. They better get going.
I think it shows that legalization works. This policy has worked very well so far, and if they really want to counter the black market, they should make it available through dépanneurs, for example. I mean, we can buy beer in the dépanneurs. A lot of people say that alcohol is worse for your health than marijuana is, so why not have it accessible at that level? I mean, now we're talking about having delivery anyway, so it would be about the same thing.
For those of you who are keeping track of this at home, you'll be able to get pot within an hour and an emergency room doctor within, 14 to 18 hours right now in Quebec. So,
if you apply for a death certificate, you'll be waiting months.
So, I mean, but isn't that crazy how sometimes these things work? We can figure out a way to get pot to someone's door within an hour. We can't figure out a way to see a doctor in a fast time. Thanks, guys, for coming on this morning. Alex Tyrrell, leader of the Green Party of Quebec. Trudie Mason, thanks so much. Have a great weekend, guys. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend,
Have a great
Elias.
weekend.
Yeah, great weekend, Elias.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to put in a laugh track on this program.